I almost didn't make this video because what I'm about to reveal could completely change your winter plans, but you deserve to know the truth. In the next 15 minutes, you're going to see model data that has meteorologists completely rethinking the season ahead. Before I show you this game-changing pattern, drop your exact location in the comments, especially if you're in remote areas that rarely get mentioned. We have a powerful storm system racing toward us this week, but that's just the opening act for something truly extraordinary. This system will unleash severe weather across the south while delivering winter conditions to the north. But here's what most people don't know. Hidden in today's model runs is a pattern shift that could completely flip the script on winter 2025. For those of you in small towns across Montana, North Dakota, and northern Minnesota, this pattern is designed for you. I'm talking about places like Williston, International Falls, Bemidji, and those isolated communities that know real winter. Drop your town name in the comments right now. I want to see representation from every corner of snow country. But first, if you're watching from anywhere in the snow belt, hit that subscribe button and tell me your worst winter memory. Also, if you have prayer requests or anything on your heart, please share that below. This community genuinely cares about each other. Let's dive into the models because what I'm about to show you will have folks in Fargo and Duluth planning for something special. Starting this Saturday, watch this blue area. This represents a trough that will hit the remote corners of the upper Midwest first. Places like Grand Forks, Minot, and Hibbing, you're going to feel this weekend's system before anyone else. But here's where it gets absolutely fascinating for the forgotten corners of winter America. January 11th and 12th mark the start of something incredible, especially for you folks in the isolated snowbelt regions. I'm talking about communities like Ironwood, Michigan, Houghton, Marquette, the places that really understand lake effect. If you're watching from the Upper Peninsula, comment UP Strong. I want to see how many of you are out there. Watch as massive blue areas explode across regions that rarely get attention. Northern Wisconsin, the Iron Range, the Arrowhead. This is the signal that communities like Virginia, Minnesota, Ely, and Grand Portage have been waiting for. We're looking at the Euro Ensemble model, and it's showing love for the remote snow country that mainstream weather ignores. When this model shows persistence for places like Timmins, Cochrane, and the northern Ontario border regions, smart people pay attention. Now, this blue area doesn't automatically guarantee snow for every remote location, but here's what it does mean. We're seeing lower pressure signatures that will energize systems affecting the most isolated winter communities first. For those in the snow shadow areas, places like Gaylord, Michigan, Traverse City, and the northern lower peninsula, comment your exact town and tell me, are you ready for the winter you've been missing this season? Watch this ridge building over the western United States. This will redirect Arctic air straight into snow country. Combined with the persistent trough over Alaska, we're setting up atmospheric dominoes falling toward the remote snow belt. This Alaska trough is like a frozen reservoir of Arctic air waiting to flood places like Fairbanks, Anchorage, then cascade south. Here's where the pattern becomes absolutely electric for forgotten winter towns across the northern border. Cold air is literally trying to dive toward places like Baudette, Roseau, and those communities right on the Canadian line. If you're watching from any town within 50 miles of the Canadian border, comment border country right now. Will we see explosive development hitting the Boundary Waters, the North Shore, Superior National Forest regions? Most meteorologists focus on big cities, missing how patterns affect places like Cook, Minnesota, Grand Marais, Silver Bay. But here's what they're missing. Remote locations often see the most dramatic impacts from these atmospheric changes. I suspect energy amplification will occur right over the region's mainstream weather completely overlooks. We need to watch the January 14th to 17th window for places that don't have local TV weather coverage. Communities like Two Harbors, Lutsen, and those isolated North Shore towns. This pattern is screaming your name. And here's where it gets truly wild for the upper elevations and remote mountain communities. This massive bowl-shaped trough will target places like Whitefish, Montana, Sand Point, Idaho, and isolated Rocky Mountain towns. The ridge spikes dramatically toward Alaska, creating cross-polar flow that will hit remote Alaska communities first. Places like Barrow, Nome, Kotzebue, you're the canary in the coal mine for what's coming to the lower 48. If you're watching from anywhere in Alaska, comment Last Frontier. I want to know you're out there. This configuration will funnel Arctic air toward forgotten snowbelt communities across northern Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire. Past January 15th, places like Caribou, Maine, Island Pond, Vermont, and Berlin, New Hampshire could see historic conditions. By January 18th, look at this ridge positioning. It's textbook setup for overwhelming the most remote winter communities. We're developing the pattern that buried places like Oswego, New York, Watertown, and the Tug Hill Plateau in weather history. This combination historically produces the storms that isolate communities for days in the most remote regions. For deep backcountry areas, places accessible only by snowmobile or four-wheel drive, this is your pattern. Comment if you're watching from anywhere that requires a generator, wood stove, or gets cut off when winter hits hard. This ridge spike is textbook for major events affecting the most isolated winter communities across North America. This pattern screams Arctic boundary setup. Exactly what remote northern communities know leads to legendary winters. What we're seeing allows storm systems to tap massive cold air and deliver it to places that truly appreciate winter. The final piece shows strong energy diving through regions where people still heat with wood and measure snow in feet. For those in off-grid communities, isolated cabins, and remote winter towns, don't lose hope yet. When this much Arctic air sits nearby, places like yours often see the most dramatic changes first. I've seen patterns flip and deliver historic snow to places like the Keweenaw Peninsula in less than 24 hours. This is shaping up to be the strongest cold air signature perfectly positioned for real winter country. Pacific patterns are aligning to favor places that measure winter by survival, not convenience. The consistency gives me chills thinking about communities that still depend on winter for their identity. Now let's talk about this week's storm system and how it sets up these remote regions for what follows. While cities deal with mixed precipitation, isolated snowbelt communities face pure winter conditions. What makes this week crucial is positioning for places that don't make national weather headlines. In the comments right now, tell me your town's elevation, average snowfall, and what you're hoping to see. Your remote location matters because this pattern affects isolated communities in the most dramatic ways. If you're in a place where the nearest grocery store is 30+ miles away, this conversation is especially for you. Currently, we're dealing with systems that will hit isolated regions first before reaching population centers. Freezing rain affecting remote areas of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and northern Michigan right now proves this point. Share what you're experiencing, especially if you're in places that don't get mentioned on mainstream weather. Winter weather advisories affect communities most people can't pronounce, let alone find on a map. Dense fog widespread across regions where visibility matters for survival, not just convenience. Remote northern areas stay locked in patterns that signal major atmospheric transitions ahead. Tonight's system delivers mixed conditions to population centers, but pure winter to isolated communities. Places like northern Maine, the Adirondacks, and Green Mountains could see significant accumulations. Western regions stay quiet today, except for mountain communities that live winter year-round. Current patterns show the dramatic setup that remote winter communities recognize as the real deal. These temperature patterns are like signals that isolated snowbelt regions have learned to read perfectly. Before we close, I want to share something that connects all weather communities, remote or urban. We're looking at Mark chapter 1, verse 35, showing Jesus seeking solitude that remote communities understand. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, he got up, went out and made his way to a deserted place, and there he was praying. If Jesus prioritized quiet time away from crowds, those in remote areas already understand this blessing. Daily practice of reading God's Word, listening, praying, transforms everything, especially in isolated communities. Away from urban distractions, remote communities discover peace that grounds them through any storm. Living in isolated areas provides natural quiet time opportunities that cities can never replicate. Rising before dawn comes naturally when you're surrounded by wilderness instead of traffic noise. Remote living often forces the early morning discipline that connects people deeply with God's presence. If you're in isolated communities, you already know the peace that early morning silence brings. The challenge of remote living fades when grounded in daily time with the Creator of all weather patterns. Thank you all for joining from communities that understand what real winter means. God bless each of you, and don't forget to share your remote location and current conditions below. I especially want to hear from communities that mainstream weather never mentions but deserve recognition. The patterns we're tracking could deliver the winter conditions that remote snow country truly appreciates. Keep watching as mid-January approaches. If these models are right, isolated communities will see it first. Stay safe, stay prepared, and remember that remote or urban, God remains constant through every storm. Until next time, God bless all you hardy souls in the forgotten corners of winter country.